How many times have you committed that sin that you promised God that you weren't going to commit anymore? How many times have you slipped up when you thought the last time was your last? Whether it's the same sin over and over that you struggle to deal with, or with something else that just happens every now and then. But one thing we can't afford to do is fall into this feeling of despair. Despair is the biggest tool that the enemy has in trying to bring us back down and hold us in our sinful graves. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, Paul writes, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." We have to remember that through Christ, we have been lifted up and are expected to live in this godly way. And we can't fall victim to that mindset. We can't fall victim to thinking that we're defeated, because we are never defeated no matter what hardships we face in this life. You see, Satan doesn't care so much about making you fall into sin. What he really cares about is making you despair over that sin, fall into despair and feeling that I can't get out of this. I can't, how many of you, when you keep committing the same sin over and over, whatever it is, whether it's an addiction that you had, a drug abuse that you had, any type of nature, just felt unworthy to pray to God because you couldn't lift your eyes to meet his, because you felt so ashamed of yourself, so unworthy to pray, unworthy to ask for forgiveness, unworthy to ask for anything that he might be able to grace you with to lift you up. What Paul writes in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 is that we're hard pressed on every side, but we're not defeated. We're perplexed, but not in despair. We might be confused at our sinful nature because we will never know exactly how it works. There's a spiritual war going on inside of our heads every single day we wake up on this planet. And it's up to us to try to keep God the winning fight in our heads, because God already won. He already won. We know how the story ends. But it's up to us to keep that in our heads, right? I could wake up tomorrow and start feeding the enemy in my mind, feeling hopeless, feeling in despair, that I can't overcome what I've been going through, that I can't get past this sin that keeps hitting me like a rock. So what do we do when we start to have these feelings of despair? I mean, first we have to recognize what is going on inside our head. We have to be aware of every thought in our mind and be able to discern, is it godly or is it of Satan? Like I talked about in my last video, our mind is always at war with each other, with the angel on one side and the demon on the other, whispering things in our ears. One telling us to respond in a loving way, and one responding in a negative way, that could damage just damage more even what you're going through. Even with the thoughts of despair. Even when it's saying, I am unworthy to even pray right now to you, God. You have to recognize that that's from the enemy. When we see in the Bible countless times where even Paul, right? He writes in Romans, "For the things that I want to do, I do not do, but what I do not want to do, I do." And he recognizes that it's because of his sinful self. He recognizes that it's not from God. He recognizes that it's the enemy and him saying, in him and his sinful flesh. He recognizes all these things, but he keeps persevering. He came from a background of persecuting and killing Christians, and he turned around, gave his life to God, and he's arguably one of the most important, top 3 important figures in the entirety of the Bible, behind Jesus. He turned his life around, and he still sinned. He came from this awful background. Even the lady at the well, she went to the well at the hottest part of the day, so she didn't have to be seen by other people and be mocked for how many husbands she had, and that the man she was with at the time is not her husband. For those of you who do not know, when Jesus encountered the woman at the well, he spoke to her what is going on in her life. He said, "I know you have 5 husbands, or you've had 5 husbands, and the man you're with right now is not your husband." speaking to her heart. And back, even now, that's like, you hear someone with that type of story, like, whoa. But back then, it's even crazier, right? And being in such a state of despair where you feel like you can't even interact with people, unworthy and humiliated and shamed, to where you go to the well as a young lady, middle-aged lady, in the hottest part of the day, whether that's half a mile out of town, a mile out of town, whatever that be, to the hottest part of the day to go get water, just so you don't have to see the eyes looking at you and overthink about what other people are thinking at you. She was in so much despair. And what did Jesus do? He told you, I am here for you. I am the Messiah. He gave her this overwhelming sense of love and acceptance when she felt so ashamed and so unworthy and just in a state of utter despair. And Jesus came and welcomed her. Right? We have to realize that God is not against us. God is for us. Okay? You have to realize that those thoughts in your head that make it feel like you're unworthy to approach God for forgiveness, for just wanting to turn your life around, wanting to end this one sin that keeps holding you back from your greatness. We have to realize that God just wants us. God wants us over anything. Right? We see countless times He takes us in with all of our baggage. Right? No matter what it is in the New Testament, right? We see countless people approach Jesus. A woman who was bleeding for 12 years straight, outcasted by society, in such a state of despair, and she came crawling to the feet of Jesus through a crowd. But she still made that effort. She knew this man could save her. She knew God in the flesh, God in front of us, could save her. And she didn't stop. She approached that through everything that held her down, and she came in with the mindset that God is bigger than my despair. God is bigger than this feeling of unworthiness and shame that I have. Just so many instances of Jesus just accepting and embracing us when we're in despair. Even when you give your life to God, it's so easy to unknowingly fall into that sense of despair. Whether it's cursing, addiction, once again, drug abuse, whether it's gluttony, whatever it is, you overeat one day and then after you kept telling yourself, I'm not going to, and you just feel so unworthy. To those of you that don't struggle with that, you guys, whatever, like eating too much, whatever. But to some people, that's a real struggle. And they feel so unworthy to just approach God with that, knowing that they keep falling back into that same sin, into that same drunkenness, whatever it is. We have to know that God wants us, and He wants us to turn from our sin, and rightfully so. So how should we approach this? We know that it's from the enemy. We know that the thoughts going on inside of our head, when we get those feelings like, I can't even pray to you right now, God. I just committed this sin and I feel so unworthy. We know that's of the enemy. We have to acknowledge that. We have to. And what do? We have to trust God. We have to trust God and pray to Him that He would lift us up. We have to get past it. We have to be that woman that was bleeding for 12 years, crawling through the crowd to see Jesus. We have to get past all those feelings of shame, everything, those feelings of despair that we are not worth saving. We have to crawl past all of those feelings and approach God. We have to know, and that takes will. But it's the God of the universe. It's the God of the universe. He will accept you as you are. Like I said earlier, Satan doesn't care so much about making you fall into sin. He cares about making you fall into despair. When we sin, right, obviously not like purposely doing it, going back, but when we get caught in the moment and we fall into that same sin, we can get back up. We have two choices. We can stay in our feelings about it, I can't believe I've done this. We can be in despair about it. Or we can continue to pick up our cross daily and strive for perfection. Even though we will never get it, we have to strive for it. every single day. Christ says, take up your cross daily. Not just one day, not just when you give your life to Christ, daily. You cannot get caught in this feeling of despair. We are called to a daily walk, which we must walk every day. I hope and I pray that this video spoke to somebody out there dealing with these thoughts and these negative feelings towards things, because I struggle with that too. I struggle with it. When I sin and sin and sin over and over again, when I promised God I wasn't going to, I get stuck in these feelings like, how I can't even lift my eyes to God. But we have to remember that God just wants us. And we have to give ourselves to Him daily. We can't get caught in this feeling that we can't. We have to crawl through those crowds, forgetting all of our shame and despair, and just ask for forgiveness and for the strength to fight this, whatever it is we're going through. And that He will bless us with that. When you have a true repentant heart that is willing to change and wanting to change for the sake of God, He will help you transform that. He will help you become a better lover. He will help you stop that sin, whatever it is. He will help you overcome that enemy in your mind. He will help you through all these things. If you have anything you'd like me to talk about in the future, just please let me know. Shed light on anything in the comments. As always, God bless.